Hi, and welcome to TSA's Ask Me Anything Holiday Travel Edition. I'm your host, Emily, and with me today we have the State Department, Michelle, and Ask TSA's manager, Janice. Thank you all for joining us today. Michelle, do you mind giving us an introduction about your background and what you do with the State Department?
Sure, Emily. Thank you so much for having us, and thanks for joining to all of you. My name is Michelle, as Emily mentioned, and I've been with the State Department's Bureau of Consular Affairs for about 9.5 years.
Wonderful.
And good afternoon, my name is Janice. I've been with Ask TSA for a little over a year, and I have been with TSA for about 12 years.
Well, thank you, ladies, for joining us today. And we want to remind the the viewers that please feel free to come and interact with us, ask questions. We're here for you guys. And we're going to start with Michelle. Many people will be flying to an international destination this holiday season. Could you tell us a little bit about what they can expect while traveling? Any advisements?
Sure, yeah, I would definitely say the most important thing is to do your research and do your research ahead of time. So all members of your family, of your traveling party, will require a passport to travel. That even includes little babies. It does not include pets, so your pets don't need a passport. So you're going to want to start with the passport. If you already have tickets booked and you don't have a passport yet, you can get a passport expedited, but that's an additional $60 additional to the passport fee. You're going to want to check our page at travel.state.gov. Each country has its own specific requirements for travel. A lot of countries have a requirement of 6 months validity on your passport in order to enter that country. So you're going to want to check that and check your passport to see if you have enough validity to enter a country. Children's passports, so 15 years and younger, their passports are only good for 5 years. So even if your passport is good for 10 years as the parent, the adult, you're going to want to check your kids' passports and make sure that they're still valid. And then there's lots of information about visa requirements for each country. You can enroll in STEP, which is our Smart Travel Enrollment Program. That will allow you to receive alerts about anything that's going on in the country that you're visiting for the duration of your trip. So if there's any security alert or weather alert, anything like that, you'll get that alert directly sent to your email, to your phone, so you can be in the know about what's going on.
Thank you for that. And for some people who are still unaware of the visas, could you kind of explain a little bit about the different countries and the expectation of not only a passport, but a valid visa?
Sure. So it really depends on the country, which is why travel.state.gov is a great resource. You can select the country that you're planning to travel to, or if it's various countries, or if it's a cruise, something like that. And you can look and see a lot of countries do kind of like a visa waiver, or you can get the visa when you arrive to the country. But a lot of countries require you to apply for a visa ahead of time, and to be able to, you have to do that preparation with a few weeks notice.
And what's the best way someone can travel with their passport or visa in case, for example, well, we don't always, in case of like if they're on a cruise ship and there was an accident of some sort, or there was theft involved, are there any advisements that you can have to our audience that they can properly prepare for their passport or visa in case of an emergency?
Sure. I think it's really important to know that our consular officials overseas at our embassies and consulates abroad, they can help you get an emergency passport. So if you have lost a passport or is stolen from you while you're traveling abroad, you need to get to the nearest embassy or consulate. And again, through travel.state.gov, you can get to that individual country's, the U.S. Embassy's consulate or embassy page, and you can typically get a replacement for your passport within 24 to 48 hours. We can't guarantee anything because we have our kind of own security and system checks that we need to do. But that is a way that if you've lost everything, you know, we ask you to bring some form of ID if you have it, but if not, we have ways to identify you and confirm that you're a U.S. citizen.
Great. And on the topic of passports, I know we get asked frequently on Ask TSA what are proper identifications to travel with. Are people able to travel domestically with their passport?
People can travel domestically. We prefer that they use, or they can use their government IDs or their passports to travel, but within the United States, a government ID will suffice.
And as we're ending 2019, just around the corner, right, to 2020. Yes. I know that new identification policies are changing at airports. Are you able to discuss with the audience what that means to them as they're prepared for their travel plans this coming year?
Sure. So beginning October 1st, 2020, you're going to have a a real ID in order to travel within the United States. And so real IDs, some have stars on the top, some don't have stars. It depends on the state. You can have a gold star, or you can have a black star, or you can have I think it's a gold star with a white cutout. Some states have a bear to show that they're a real ID. But most importantly, I would say talk with your local DMV to find out what their perception of a real ID is. Also, in the state of New York, Washington State, and I think a few other states in the northern part of the United States, they also have enhanced IDs.
Great. And I want to remind the audience right now that if you have any questions, please send them our way. We've got these experts here for you guys, so please feel free to share them. So what happens if you travel on October 1st, 2020 without a real ID? Because you can't just renew an ID and get quote unquote a real ID, correct? What is that process?
I would recommend to anybody watching, and even those not watching, that you let your family and friends know that you must have a real ID as of October 1st, 2020, or you will not be allowed to travel. You can still travel with a passport as long as it's valid, but you cannot travel if you don't have a real ID on October 1st, 2020. So we should get the DMV soon.
Absolutely. And where's a good place for our viewers to check out the approved alternate forms of identification, just for their awareness?
Well, there are a couple of places you can go. One, you can always go to tsa.gov and get whatever information you need about Real ID. You can always contact us on Twitter or on Facebook Messenger and ask TSA at asktsa.gov or at Ask TSA. And then last but not least, you can also download the TSA app to get information.
Wonderful. Now, we've covered passports, we've covered Real ID, identification, but let's talk about what we always want to talk about is food, right? So I'm sure there's a lot of questions regarding traveling with food abroad or coming back with food. What would your department say in regards to food?
So we at the State Department don't really handle food. I would direct folks that are interested in bringing food back from their travels abroad to look at CBP, Customs and Border Protection, look at their website, possibly look at USDA. But I'll use this opportunity to mention that for people that are traveling abroad, they may want to visit travel.state.gov and look under the international travel page for their country that they're going to look at any restrictions on medication. Some of your kind of innocuous regular medications that you can get over the counter here are actually illegal in some countries, and so we definitely don't want our American citizens having problems when entering other countries.
Well, I think that's good to know. And once again, I want to invite any questions. If you have, please feel free to type them below. Janice, same to you. I'm sure Ask TSA gets a lot of travel questions regarding foods. What would you say is a frequently asked question from your experience regarding foods, and what is TSA's policy when it comes to food?
Well, we get similar questions frequently, which are, can I bring my sandwich? Because we all want to eat. They're not serving meat, so we only want to eat. The answer is yes. You can bring your sandwich. Any solid food is allowed on the planes through security. Now, but if it's a liquid, if you can smear it, spill it,
spray it,
it cannot go through as a solid food. It must go through the liquids rule. Let me give you an example. If you have a sandwich and you have mayo on it, no, we don't need to measure your mayo. That's fine. But if it's just a solid food, it can go. So nuts, cakes, sandwiches, it's all allowed to go through carry-on. Cheesecakes are also allowed to go through carry-on, which is a frequent question we get around this time of year, that and pies.
Of course, that and everyone talks about fruit cakes, and I'm not sure if you're traveling with these heavy fruit cakes, but I'm assuming that falls under pies and cakes, and that's good to go through TSA as well.
Fruit cakes are allowed in carry-on and checked baggage, yes.
So what if you're bringing your homemade turkey, hams? I know they seem off the wall, but you know, some people just can't live without grandma's turkey, so she baked it at home and she wants to travel with it. Is that allowed through the checkpoint?
Please, if you want to bring your turkey, you're allowed to bring your turkey. I would invite you to please make sure there is no turkey juice, turkey gravy. If that is there, it must be frozen. And if it's not 100% frozen and it's slushy, you won't be able to take your turkey.
So Michelle was mentioning about medications, and I'm sorry, I missed the segue of discussing medication. I'm sure that's a frequently asked question. If you all want to talk about medications of any kinds, please submit your questions. But Janice, can you also remind viewers what TSA's policy on medication is?
Sure. Medications are not prohibited from being taken through the checkpoint. You can always take your medications. Please let the officers know that you have a medication and take it out, place it on a separate bin so that it can be examined. If you need additional help other than just the basic medication, I would ask that you contact Ask TSA, and we can get you a TSA Cares representative to help you through the process as you get to the checkpoint.
Well, it looks like we have a question from Frank, who wants to know if his carving knife set could be carried on.
So Frank, if your carving knife is serrated, your knife cannot go on. If it is a butter knife, it can go on through the checkpoint. But if it's serrated, it cannot go through the checkpoint.
So staying with the holiday topic, gifts from overseas. I'm sure there's some regulations about what can and cannot come during internet or when you're traveling abroad. Is there anything you can cover based on that topic?
So again, I would direct folks to travel.seat.gov to look at the requirements for each individual country. If we don't answer the question directly on travel.seat.gov, we can direct you to the correct authority of that sovereign nation that you're traveling to that will hopefully tell you, what you can do about bringing gifts.
And of course, I have to ask you, Janice, TSA rules on gifts. Any recommendations or advisements to our traveling public?
Sure. So TSA will not tell you that you can or cannot wrap your gift. You can do either you prefer. However, if the gift alarms, then we're going to have to unwrap the gift. So we suggest that you don't wrap the gift until you get where you're going. That way, if we have to investigate a little bit more, we'll be able to do so without unwrapping it.
Yeah, save yourself the trouble anyway, right? There's just more work, and you're risking the chance of paper cuts, and nobody likes that, right?
Or 3 sticky tapes not getting back on.
So it looks like we have another question, and this is regards to gravy and cranberry sauce. Are we able to travel with our gravy and cranberry sauce?
You absolutely can, as long as it's frozen. If it is not solid frozen and it has any juice whatsoever, you will not be able to take it through the checkpoint.
And does that go with canned items, like canned cranberry sauce?
As long as there's no juice floating, you can take it through the checkpoint. So I would be cautious if it's in a can and probably just put it in my check bags just to make sure, especially if it's my favorite cranberry sauce. But otherwise, it has to be frozen, and that includes mashed potatoes. They have to be frozen.
Well, good to know. I'm not sure how well that's going to taste, but good to know if you can't separate from your mashed potatoes. How about regarding, in the same topic as presents, how about toys and replica items? Are those okay? Even though they're super harmless, like toy Nerf guns, are those allowed in your carry-on bags?
If your toy is a lifelike replica, no, you cannot. You should put it in checked baggage, or the officers have the right to take it back.
Good to know. And what would you say, Michelle, is a frequently asked question for your department?
I would say we get a lot of questions about, can I travel to X country? And so that is a very personal choice that we advise our U.S. citizen travelers. I will say that we have a great resource, again, on travel.state.gov. When you look up that country page that I've spoken about a couple of times, you can see the travel advisory for that country at what level it's at. So we keep a level system, 1 through 4. 1 is, kind of there's no issues, it's pretty safe, to 4 being, we recommend you don't travel to those places. And then there's also recent alerts that have gone out. So, for example, in Iceland, they've had some very bad weather. So Iceland, the embassy there sent out a weather alert saying, hey, be very careful. This is kind of the worst winter storm I think they've ever had. So it's up to you, again, ultimately your decision, but I would say do your research, look at those things before you just make a decision about travel.
That's great to know. And once again, if you have any questions, please send them our way. We're here with our experts, so please, please, please consider asking some questions. I'm sure you guys are both seasoned travelers. So let's separate from where your current role is and provide the audience some of your best travel tips. We'll start with you, Michelle.
That's tough. This is a personal endorsement only, but
Of
I have TSA PreCheck, and I would say that is probably the most wonderful benefit that I have, is just moving fast, especially when I'm traveling alone, and I can kind of just zip through the lines. That, and then I will plug, keeping copies of your passport, any important documents, any important phone numbers. I think I know my mom's phone number off the top of my head. So if I'm ever in a situation where I've lost everything, at least I have one person that I can contact.
I agree with nowadays with smartphones. I can't even remember my own husband's phone number. It's just a button away. So you're right. So memorizing those key numbers are key. How about you, Janice?
So I have to agree with Michelle. I too have TSA PreCheck, and I love it. And that is my personal endorsement. And then I also agree that you have to have all the documentation, pictures or something, just in case. And my last thing is that I kind of pat myself down before I go to the airport. If you have metal of any kind, I won't wear it. If you have pants that have metal on them, I won't wear those. So I do everything I can to keep from tripping any kind of alarm that might go off. And I even check my kids. So I guess for the families, please check and see what your kids are packing, because even though they say they can do it from small to teenager, it doesn't mean they're not going to embarrass you at the checkpoint. So I always check behind my kids and make sure they're doing the right thing.
Now, not to put you on the spot, but both of you guys both mentioned TSA PreCheck. I also have TSA PreCheck, couldn't live without it. But can you explain to the viewers what that is and where they can go to sign up?
Sure. First off, you go to tsa.gov and sign up. Excuse me. But TSA PreCheck allows you to go through a line that sometimes looks longer but moves a lot faster. You can keep your shoes on, you can keep your laptops inside the bag, you can keep your liquids, gels, and aerosol bag inside your luggage, and you go through. You are a known, trusted traveler. It will give you the ability to move through a lot quicker and not have to take your belt off and redress after you've been through security. So, huge advocate.
Yeah, and as a mom of two, it's a lifesaver.
Yes.
I would highly recommend it. And thanks again for everybody who's asking questions. Please feel free to continue your questions. We'll have somebody monitoring the questions. And ladies, as we wrap up, any final thoughts before we log off here?
Yeah, so I will put in a plug for those that are interested in international travel, or kind of what the State Department puts out as far as guidance and recommendations, to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as TravelGov. Please follow us. We also follow TSA, and we share each other's information, so it's a great resource, and want to thank you again for having us today.
Well, thank you,
Holidays
Michelle.
to everyone.
Thank you, Michelle. How about you, Janice?
Same thing. You can always contact us on Ask TSA, either on Twitter or Facebook Messenger. Please follow us on tsa.gov. You can get any answer to any travel-related question there as well, or direction on how to do that. And we also have a TSA app that you can download that will help you when you go to the airport to know wait times and other things like that.
Well, thank you, ladies, for taking the time.
Happy
One more.
holidays.
Oh, happy holidays, of
holidays.
course. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm kind of ready to go pack my bags and go somewhere.
Right.
I'm feeling pretty confident. But thank you, ladies, for taking the time to be with us. And to you all, thank you for your questions. Thank you for tuning in. And until next time, thank you very much.